Hello learners, welcome back to our YouTube channel. So in today's video, we're going to see another statistics interview questions which is asked frequently in interviews of statistics. So let's begin with the question. The question is, can you explain the concept of statistical power and how it relates to hypothesis testing? So basically in statistics, hypothesis testing is a very important topic. And yes, first you have to explain the what is hypothesis testing in this case. So statistical power is the probability of correctly rejecting the null hypothesis when it is false, or in other words, the probability of detecting a true effect or difference in a study. In hypothesis testing, statistical power is an important consideration because it is related to the likelihood of obtaining a significant result. So basically in hypothesis testing, we have two hypotheses, the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. So we consider that null hypothesis means there is no relation between two entities, and alternative means yes, there is a relation. So we perform certain tests and then we select that whether we have to reject the null hypothesis or accept the null hypothesis. Okay. So basically statistical power is the probability that we correctly reject the null hypothesis when it is false. Let's understand this graphically. So suppose on this hand side we have the reality, and on this hand side we have the prediction or the test result. So in the reality, here H naught denotes null hypothesis. So H naught is false, which means the null hypothesis is really false. In reality it is false. And here H naught is true. That means the reality of H naught is true. And according to test result, we have two results, that we reject the null hypothesis or we accept the null hypothesis. So basically in the first block, we see that the result is false. The reality is that the null hypothesis is false. And yes, according to the result, we reject it. So this is a correct rejection. Here, the power will be 1 minus beta. Okay, your beta is nothing but type 2 error. Okay, and suppose if here, okay, so this power is nothing but the statistical power. So the formula for statistical power is 1 minus beta. Beta is nothing but the type 2 error. Type 2 error is caused by accepting the null hypothesis when it is false in reality. Okay, so suppose in reality the null hypothesis is true, but we reject it in original after the test, then it will be causing a type 1 error, okay, which is also denoted as alpha. Similarly, if the null hypothesis is false and even though we accept it, then it is the type 2 error. And then if it is true, null hypothesis is true, and we accept it, then it is a correct acceptance of null hypothesis. Okay, so we see two correct cases and two wrong cases. First wrong case is definitely called the type 1 error, where we reject the null hypothesis even when it is true. And next is the type 2 error, where we accept the null hypothesis when it is false. Okay, so what is expected from us is that we perform such test and we reject the null hypothesis if it is false, or we accept the null hypothesis if it is true. Okay, so basically statistical power is the power or the probability that we correctly reject the null hypothesis when it is false. So this first block is nothing but which denotes the value of statistical power. Okay, so for example, a study that has an 80% power means that the study has an 80% chance of the test giving us significant results. Okay, so a high statistical power means that the test results are likely valid, and as the power decreases, the probability of making type 2 error decreases. So the statistical power and probability of type 2 error are inversely proportional. And if there is a low statistical power, that will mean that the test results are not up to the mark or they are questionable. So beta is the probability that you won't reject the null hypothesis, or alternatively it can also be called as type 2 error, and the statistical power is the complement of probability, which is 1 minus beta. As we saw over here, statistical probability is nothing but 1 minus beta, where beta here is type 2 error. Okay, and if your statistical power is close to 90 or around 90, then your results will be considered as valid results, or else if as it goes on decreasing, then you can understand that your results are not up to the mark. So I hope you have understood this question, and basically what are the points that you will explain while explaining this question are: first, the hypothesis testing, what is the hypothesis testing and what are the two hypotheses that we consider, null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, then the definition of statistical power, how it is calculated and what is its significance. So thank you for watching this video. If you have liked it, then share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more such videos. Thank you.